Hello, thank you, wonderful people. Thank you for joining me. I am Pastor Maxwell Nnawuihe. Welcome to the continuation of The Enemies Within with regards to the release of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu, those who don't really want him to come out of the DSS dungeon in Abuja, Nigeria. What I tell you, what I share with you is the truth. If you have not watched the part 1, you have missed a lot. And there is no way you will understand the part 2 if you don't watch the part 1. Please, it's important. Try and watch it so that you can understand the part 2, because there are a lot of things I said in the part 1 that I will not repeat in the part 2 for the sake of time. Please, like this video now, like it, share it, put the heart emoji in the chat section so that it will really go far. It is time for this innocent man, Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu, to come out of the DSS dungeon. He has spent a longer time that is quite unnecessary, that is quite unbecoming. And if nothing is done, you know that this is Nigeria. If nothing is done anytime soon, they might keep him till 2027 after the next election. But God forbid. God has done everything that he needs to do for the release of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu. But the enemies within are sitting on top of it. God has answered prayers in dramatic, supernatural and higher dimensions so that people understand that the hand of God is upon the life of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu. But the enemies within are trying to mess up what God has done for the Biafran people and for Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu. Please join me as I take you through some important updates, as I take you through all the things I'll be reading out now. A lot of things I'm going to be reading out now. I may not be able to analyze all of them, but some of them that I will be able to analyze based on time, I will do so. I will do so. As I'm analyzing, you are also analyzing them. The enemies within. They don't want Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu to come out. One of the information you need to hear, digest it, and look into everything I'm going to raise here, and be the judge. Why Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu is still in detention, and who is really to blame. Over the last 24 hours, many Nigerians, especially supporters of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu, have been asking the same painful question. Why is he still being dragged to court after the Supreme Court's ruling of 15th December 2023? Some of this frustration is now being directed at the current legal team, but let's not forget how we got here and who really dropped the ball. It is trying to point out who should bear the blame and who should be excused from the blame. But we are not allowing anyone to get away with what they have done, the role they have played that contributed to the extended period of the release or detention of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu. We will take them and hold them accountable. Number one, who let the case come back to life? Who let the case come back to life? The Supreme Court should never have had the case after the Court of Appeal discharged Kanu on 13th October 2022. Again, try and watch the part 1. I did a lot of analysis and I said a lot of things in the part 1. I don't want to repeat them for the sake of time. The Appeal Court discharged Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu on 13th of October 2022 on the grounds that Nigeria had no legal rights to try him in the first place because he was kidnapped from Kenya in a manner that broke both Nigerian and international law. I explained why the Appeal Court gave that judgment in the part 1, so try and watch the part 1. But instead of enforcing that judgment, Michael Zekome's son, then Kanu's lead lawyer, allowed the government to appeal using a civil procedure rule, Order 6 Rule 1 of the Court of Appeal rules to challenge a criminal discharge, which is a legal blunder. This was a colossal legal blunder. That rule is meant for civil appeals, not criminal ones. It should never have applied. By going along with this, Zekome effectively allowed a dead case to be reopened. I am reading what is published. I am reading what is released by someone. Number 2, Malamist legal gymnastics. Discharge is not acquittal. Former Attorney General Abubakar Malami spread the idea that Kanu wasn't really free because a discharge wasn't an acquittal. But here is the truth. Section 396, subsection 7 of the ACJA, which Malami often quoted, has nothing to do with discharge or acquittal. Many of you can still remember that. Oh, that he was just discharged but not acquitted. And I said it is not true. I made broadcasts. I responded both spiritually, prophetically, and intellectually. I don't want to analyze too much. I don't want to do that. It simply says that judges elevated to higher courts can finish hearing cases they already started. That's all. That was what that section really meant in application. Kanu was discharged because the court had no jurisdiction. That kind of discharge is final and equals acquittal, as clearly held by the Supreme Court in FRN versus Osahon 2006, 5 NWLR, part 973, 361 at 405, paragraph B to C, per Nnawuihe JSC. Where a court lacks jurisdiction, that is what that paragraph that is being cited in this article. I am quoting now, verbatim. Where a court lacks jurisdiction, the proceedings and judgment, however well conducted or decided, are nullity and of no legal effect whatsoever. I hope you are listening. I hope you are listening. Number 3, the case is being tried under a law that no longer exists. Enemies within. Enemies within manipulated it that day, even though that this law has been repealed or no longer exists, that Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu will still be tried under it. Enemies within. After Kanu was discharged, the government brought back the same charges under the Terrorism Prevention Act 2013, which had already been appealed and replaced in May 2022 by the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. Remember, the same 2022 that we carried out our 3 months fasting and prayer for the release of Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu. God did a lot of things that many of you up to now have not heard about. Go and watch the part 1 of this video, The Enemies Within, part 2. Part 1. Now, here section 108 subsection 2 of the new law says old cases can continue, but only if they were still alive when the new law came into force. In other words, the case of Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu had died before this very new law was enacted. Okay? In Kanu's case, the Court of Appeal had already killed the case by saying the court lacked jurisdiction. You can't revive a dead case. That's basic law, confirmed by Section 6, subsection 1C of the Interpretation Act 1964, which says repeal doesn't revive a proceeding that was already terminated. The appeal court terminated the case of Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu and struck out all the remaining count charges, if you can remember, on the 13th of October 2022. The case was dead. Number 4, the rendition issue never went away. Kanu was illegally abducted from Kenya in June 2021, in clear violation of Kenyan law, Nigerian law, and international human rights treaties, which we all know. This was first raised not by Ozekone, but by Barrister Aloy Jimako, who challenged Kanu's extraordinary rendition from the start. The Supreme Court itself has condemned this kind of practice. Remember the United Nations judgment between the 30th of March of our fasting and prayers and the 8th of April 2022 in the favor of Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu. Go and watch the part 1 of this video and you will hear all I said. Number 5, the current defense team came in too late to reverse the damage. That is not an excuse. That is not an excuse. Because, why I said that is not an excuse is because the members of the current legal team they are also the members, or they were also the members of the former legal team. That is not absolute truth. Even though they were not the leader of the former legal team, they were members of the legal team led by Barrister Ifeanyi Ejiofor and Chief Mike Ozekomesan. Except they will come and tell us that when this was going on, while they were members of the legal team, they made their own contributions and legal suggestions based on the Constitution on how to handle their matter, and the former leader of the legal team refused to take their contributions or act on their legal suggestions. Then we can listen to them. I hope you are listening to me with open mind. This is not about supporting this person or being against the other person or not being against the other person. The current members of the legal team of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu as of today, they were also the members of the former legal team of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I am responding to the number 5 of this article that says the current defense team came in too late to reverse the damage. We are looking at this matter objectively and from the perspective and the angle of the truth. By the time Kanu Agabe-san and the new legal team took over, the case had already been remitted back to the High Court by the Supreme Court. Judge Nyako had resumed trial. At that point, refusing to appear in court would have meant contempt, and Kanu could have been punished even further. The current team is operating within a tight legal corner, boxed in by bad decisions that were made long before they arrived. As I said minutes ago, the current legal team, members of the current legal team, they were also members of the former legal team. The only difference here is the new sons that have been brought into this new legal team. Chief Kanu Agabe was also part of the former legal team, but his time in that legal team was not long enough. I am not here to say what really happened, why he left. But a good number of them now, which you know their names, they were in that former legal team. Bear that in your mind. Nobody should be exonerated. Everyone contributed to the extended period of the detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and they must be held accountable. No running away. Number 6, the way out. 2 simple truths. To resolve this mess, 2 points must be pressed in court and in public. Number 1, a dead case cannot be tried. Once the Court of Appeal said jurisdiction was lacking, that should have been the end. Which is the truth? That is the truth. Remember, the judgment of the Appeal Court, 13th of October 2022, was influenced by the judgment of the United Nations between the 30th of March and the 8th of April. Again, I want you to go and watch this video. Go and watch it till the end. Don't watch only 5 minutes and say, oh, but Pastor Maxwell say he said a lot. But you watch only 5 minutes. When the video is at 5 minutes, please go and watch it after now. That is what he said. A dead case cannot be tried. Once the Court of Appeal said jurisdiction was lacking, that should have been the end. That ruling means acquittal, not just a pause. Maybe this series may run up to part 3. I don't know. But did you know why they fought against the judgment of the United Nations? Because they were not the one that went to the United Nations to secure that judgment. That's why they fought against it. That's why they sat on top of it. They did not talk about it. They did not broadcast it. They did not lay strong emphasis about the importance and the value and the global implication of the United Nations judgment. They made light of it. They trivialized it. I'm talking about the people who were in position to tell Biafrans, look at the judgment that God has helped us. We have secured it from the United Nations, even though they are not the one that went to the United Nations for that judgment. They said no. They didn't talk about it. They silenced it. But this was a miracle that God performed. For the first time that United Nations opened its mouth and spoke in the favor of Biafra and Nnamdi Kanu and condemned Nigeria. And that very judgment has actually set the pace, the template, or the global awareness and support for the Biafra referendum. Chief Michael Zekome was aware of that judgment. Barrister Fanya Jofo was aware of that judgment. A lot of them, they were aware of that very judgment. They never talked about it. They did not talk about it. Radio Biafra did not broadcast it. Radio Biafra did not broadcast that judgment. IPOB platforms, I don't know why the conspiracy, they decided that that judgment will not come to the public knowledge until as we continued our prayer in the month of April. Remember, we had our 3 months fasting and prayer. January 2022, February 2022, March 2022. And that breakthrough and that victory came. God told me that about 23 native doctors were involved to suppress that very judgment. In the month of April, we declared another 23 days fasting and prayer. In this very support I'm giving to Biafran people. I have seen things. The sacrifices I've made so far. I don't want to, because I've said a lot in the part 1 of this video. Go and watch it. They sat on it. But with prayers, that United Nations judgment came out to the limelight. And it was late in the month of July. It was now circulated everywhere. And people now became aware and started talking about it. And Nnamdi Kanu gave instruction. Do you know that Nnamdi Kanu was not aware when the United Nations judgment came? Did you know that some people sat on top of it? They did not tell Nnamdi Kanu. They refused to tell him. Enemies within. And the other ones claiming, oh, we want Nnamdi Kanu to come out. Oh, he's our leader. Oh, we love him. Oh, we cannot do without him. Oh, Onyendu, the prophet of our time. Oh. They refuse to tell Nnamdi Kanu that look at the miracle that God has performed. Even if they don't mention the name of Pastor Maxwell Nnawuihe, even if they don't mention the name of the people that went to the United Nations, Bruce Fein, even if they, why didn't they just tell him the breaking news? United Nations has given a judgment in your favor. Look at what the judgment said. And let us not focus on the people that went to the United Nations to get a judgment. Let us focus on the merit, the implication, and the relief, the favor, the advantages the judgment has brought to Nnamdi Kanu and to the Biafran cause. All of those never crossed their mind, or it crossed their mind maybe for 1 or 2 reasons. They dismissed it with a wave of hand. It was later, after so many months, that Nnamdi Kanu heard about it. The United Nations has given a judgment in his favor. And he said, why are they not talking about it? And then he gave instruction that the IPOB platforms and all other relevant platforms should start talking about it. That was when people started hearing about it. By then, many months gone. The judgment gave Nigeria 6 months to release Nnamdi Kanu. It was released between March and April 8. 6 months. Being September. Before people started hearing about it. I don't want to repeat. I've said a lot, even years past, in some of my video about this matter. But it is important I continue to make reference to it because it's the truth. The Bible says in the book of John chapter 8 verse 32, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And by the time it was too late, they started talking about it. In fact, there's a lot. I don't want to go into them. Let me continue reading this. Sometimes it affects my thinking. It puts me in a state of animated suspension.
because I cannot really wrap my mind around what has been going on. It is quite complicated, but I understand what is still playing out. They don't want Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu to come out so that they will continue to make their money. They will continue to advance whatever is their agenda, so that they will continue to, build their career and their name to the detriment of the innocent man in the DSS dungeon and the entire Biafran people. Let me continue to read. I have a lot to read in this part too. Let me put my cap. Let me put it back. I hope you like my cap today. Number one, a death case cannot be tried once the Court of Appeal said jurisdiction was lacking. That should have been the end. That really means acquittal, not just a pause. 2. You can't try someone under a law that no longer exists. The TPA 2013 is gone. The Supreme Court ordered a trial under a repealed law, and that's legally void. When they remitted the case of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu to the High Court, in the judgment of the Supreme Court, I shouted. I also made a live broadcast on the 15th of December, and I told the whole world that the case of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu has ended officially in Nigeria. And some people were asking me, oh, didn't you hear that the Supreme Court say that the matter should go back to the High Court? I said, that is travesty of justice. The case has ended, and nobody should go back to the Federal High Court. Nobody. If you scroll down, 15th of December 2023 broadcast, you will see the live broadcast I made. I was on air for 5 good hours. And they said no. Now, number 7, the blame game must stop. The mistake wasn't made yesterday, it was made in late 2022. The same 2022 that God granted a miracle, and they refused to recognize it. Maybe because I'm not their uncle. Maybe because I am not one of their favorite prophets, one of their favorite pastors, compromising pastor that bend the truth. And so they said, no, we won't talk about it. Or maybe it came through the channel that they never expected, or people who they are not in talking terms with, who they don't see to eye. They said, no, we will not talk about it. We want you to come from our own side, so that we will take the glory and the credit. Onye muchechukwu. Onye mara uchechukwu nna. Obonye mara uchechukwu. You don't know the will and the plan of God. God does his thing the way he wants. Number 7, the mistake wasn't made yesterday. It was made in late 2022 when the defense team at that time failed to act decisively. Yes, blaming those now trying to clean up the mess is both unfair and unhelpful. I said in the part 1 of this video that even the members of the current legal team of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu, they were also the members of the former legal team of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu. So nobody should be exonerated from being blamed or being held accountable for whatever role they played years back or presently or months back. All of them should stand and do the needful, work together to rectify and to clean up the mess. All of them made together. Let's keep our eyes on the prize, Kanu's freedom, and stop fighting among ourselves. The real enemies are the abuse of civil rules in criminal cases, the misuse of repealed laws to try political prisoners, the silence of foreign governments that should know better. Forget about foreign governments here. I've talked about United Nations judgment, which represents the views of almost all the countries of the world. So, and the dangerous precedent of allowing executive power to override constitutional rights. Final word. With legal luminaries like Hannah Agabi now on the defense team, and with Justice Omotosho handling it. Leave all these. I don't want to spend my time reading this. If you are just joining, like this video now and share immediately. I am going to read out others. And the video is turning a long one. Bear with me. Like and share. I know that people don't watch long videos. Many people don't watch long videos. I don't even know who is watching till now. But I'm going to read out one more item from here. And then I will end this video to come back for the part 3. Or with another title. Somebody responded to what I just read now, and this is what the person wrote. Stop blaming the wrong people, face the facts. Stop blaming the wrong people, face the fact. By Chukwuemeka Nnawuihe, lay contributor to Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu Global Defense Consortium. To those ignorantly shouting that Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu should boycott the ongoing court proceedings, I don't want to use the word the person used. How do you expect a man already in detention to boycott a court when the court is the only platform where legal redress can be sought? This level of is disturbing, it's dangerous, let's be blunt. Your bluntness doesn't make any sense if you don't bring up Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu. All of you are in this mess together. All of you made this mess and you have to clean it up. Stop turning to the left, turning to the right, turning back and looking forward to see who to blame. All of you messed up. If you were in position, not if you were in position to speak out when this mess was being made and you kept quiet. And now it has extended and elongated the suffering of Maxwell Nnamdi Kanu, and you're coming out to blame. You're coming out to point fingers, accusing fingers. Where were you when Justice Samani of the Court of Appeal used a civil rule order 631 to overturn a criminal discharge? Okay? That was the legal heresy that opened the door for the Supreme Court to re-entertain a case that had already been terminated for lack of jurisdiction. Why did Ozekome say, I don't want to be mentioning names, but I can't help it. I am not the one saying it. I am reading out what is written. Why did Ozekome sit back and watch it happen? Why didn't Ejiofor protest this madness? You too that is asking this question, why didn't you protest? How many articles did you write? Did you lead a legal protest? How many interviews did you granted to address this? You that is now pointing fingers at Ejiofor, at Ozekome, but you don't want to point at yourself, or you don't want to point at other people who were also part of that legal team that contributed to this very legal or constitutional heresy or travesty of justice. What did you do? Number 2. Why did you allow a case terminated for lack of jurisdiction to be remitted for trial? Once an appeal court discharges a defendant on jurisdictional grounds, the law is settled. There can be no retrial or else double jeopardy is triggered. See FRN versus Osahon 2006. I think this is also contained in the part 1 of this video. I quote, a discharge predicated on lack of jurisdiction operates as a final acquittal. Why didn't you stand on it? Why? Why did you not insist? Why? Number 3, why did you allow a repeat law to be used in a fresh trial? I think we have dealt with that in the previous reading of the previous article and also in the part 1. That's why it's important you go and watch the part 1 of this video. The Terrorism Prevention Amendment Act 2013 was repealed on 12 May 2022, yet Kanu was remitted back for trial under this dead law, a legal impossibility. What kind of lawyer allows a client to be prosecuted under a repealed statute? The truth is this. I don't want to mention the names of these people again, but it's trying to say that the former legal team, they had or they mishandled the most heroic or historic legal opportunity in this case, instead of enforcing the 13th October 2022 judgment of the Court of Appeal that discharged Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu on jurisdictional grounds, they allowed the propaganda from Abubakar Malami to take root, claiming that discharge is not acquittal. They allowed 14 months to pass without enforcing the judgment. They gave room for the mess we are now trying to clean up. Your trying is not enough. I am not exonerating anybody. I am allowing those of you who are watching this video now to really know the enemies within who are sitting on the release of Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu without giving anyone any preferential treatment or allowing anyone to be an scapegoat. Everyone must be held accountable for the mess, and not only that, blaming up and down, but moving forward that before the end of this year 2025, that Maxwell Nnawuihe Kanu is released unconditionally. I am bringing this very part 2 of this broadcast to an end. I will see you again, if possible, in the part 3 or in any other video of another topic. I am Pastor Maxwell Nnawuihe. Goodbye and God bless you.